World News 156, NYC Ebola active monitoring from 117 cases to 357 cases in 1 week. Number of individuals in New York City who are actively being monitored for Ebola infection has increased by 300%. In a stunning press release, the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene and the New York City Health and Hospital Corporation announced that the number of individuals in New York City who are actively being monitored for Ebola infection has jumped to 357 people from 117 people in the prior week. That represents almost a 300% increase. This also does not represent people who have entered New York City from West Africa and lied on their entry forms regarding the risk that they carry the virus. Those people wouldn't even currently show up in New York City Ebola watch list count. The press release reported that the vast majority of increased number of possible Ebola patients now in New York City represents people who have recently come into the United States from the Ebola-stricken West African countries by airplane. Had a travel ban been imposed, these people would not have been able to enter the United States. President Barack Obama has actively resisted the imposition of any travel ban from the West African Ebola-affected countries. Were any of the 357 people to have actually contracted Ebola, it would be an extremely dramatic development. That's because New York City health officials would have to go into a massive contact tracing protocol and trace every contact the Ebola-infected had been for his entire stay in New York City. As the Ebola watch number increases, the likelihood also increases for an actual New York City Ebola-infected person to surface. Under the active monitoring regimen, New York City health officials have to check in with affected individuals daily, rather than just allowing people to monitor their own symptoms. As more people arrive from West Africa, the number is likely to dramatically increase. After the 21-day maximum incubation period for Ebola, though, if the patient hasn't shown any symptoms, he can be taken off the monitoring. So this actually comes from IsraeliNationalNews.com. I get a lot of different news from around the world because I use a server that basically, let's just say, kind of goes through different countries to, say, hide where you're really from. So anyways, sometimes it thinks I'm in Sweden, sometimes it thinks I'm in France, and sometimes it thinks I'm in all kinds of places. But nonetheless, I get news from all over the place. So I picked this up today, wanted to share it with you guys, because here in the US, we have not been hearing a whole lot about Ebola lately. And according to InfoWars, that's because the media has basically accepted to not talk about Ebola and possible patients and things like that as much as possible to keep the panic down. So, chew on this for a while, and we'll watch as this Ebola crisis escalates.